Thank you, Jen. Welcome to UCSB. I hope you're finding this day enjoyable. The reason I'm here is in case you decide you like what you see and you might want to engage one of our researchers in either through funding their research projects or through accessing technologies. I will give you a quick overview on how to do that, what our philosophies are, and what it's like working with us. Oh, that didn't work, so let's try this. All right. First, a little background. For those of you that might have been in California for a while, you might remember the days where the intellectual property was managed by our Oakland Office of the President. It wasn't necessarily optimal to manage an intellectual property portfolio from 400 miles away. They weren't really in a position to understand campus strategies, strategic partners, anything like that. So in 2004, all the campuses kind of joined together and said, we love you, Oakland, but we really need to manage our own technologies and our own relationships with industry. We were formed sort of phoenixed out of that historic decentralization. We were actually the first campus to have 100% of our intellectual property under our control. And when we decided to take over the intellectual property, I skip ahead. We decided to also take an opportunity to centralize the specialization of working with industry into one office. So if you do work with us, regardless of how you work with us, we have hopefully a long history and a good understanding of what our industry partners need, and we can apply that to whatever engagements you want. First and foremost, and I like to thank Dean Alferness and the other senior administration for their support of our mission. A lot of universities are under a huge pressure to maximize licensing revenue at all costs because our chancellors of various universities like having a big pot of unrestricted money. When we were formed, UCSB, I think, got it right. My role is to certainly cut a fair deal with you guys. I'm not really supposed to give anything away for free. But that said, I am not required to get every last nickel and dime out of you. My mission is to build effective, productive, and long-term partnerships, whether it's with our research partners or with those that are putting our intellectual property to work. What that means is our goal is to cut a fair deal. There might be some tensions during negotiations, there always are, but the real metric I do at the end of the day is your company comfortable coming back to UCSB for the next deal? And I think by and large companies are, which is a great testament to all the support we get on campus. And I should apologize, I'm just getting over a very bad cold, so lack of energy should not be deemed lack of enthusiasm. I'm usually bouncing all over the place. So we basically were one of the very first what we call hybrid offices. We manage all of our intellectual property, which I'll discuss a little bit later. But we also negotiate all of the legal agreements with industry that's related to research. That obviously includes research agreements where you're providing funding for a project of interest to you. It also has non-disclosure agreements, material transfer agreements if you want to share some samples with us, memorandums of understanding, and industry center membership benefits. And because of that, we're in a very good position of understanding almost all of your relationship with the campus. Obviously, we don't see your relationships in recruiting our students. We don't see philanthropic, but we basically get to see everything else so that we can actually have a full understanding into what your goals are, and we can also get to know you as a company. What that also means for you is if you, regardless of how you start, whether it's funding research or licensing, the same team is going to take care of you when you're going into the next. So you don't have to worry about, oh, there's intellectual property, now I have to switch to an unknown office where I kind of don't know what their culture is. So I would say that it's actually been a very good organization for us. Our licensing officers are able to also work right next to our industry contract officers when intellectual property terms are being discussed in a research agreement. Now, I apologize if this is a repeat, but we do like to make sure our success with industry funding is well known. We have $209 million in total research awards. And if you see by sponsor type, industry was 15.5 million of that. That seems like a remarkably small amount, but it's really not. It's a very large amount compared to most universities. In fact, the College of Engineering, and again, I apologize if you've already seen these, gets more research funding per capita than any other UC College of Engineering. And a lot of that is industry-based. We're one of the largest, we per capita get more industry funding than I think the vast majority of UC campuses, which means we know how to work with industry. We're comfortable working with industry. We're not taking faculty members that are very used to the National Science Foundation, but there are faculty who have both been in industry and have very long, successful partnerships with industry. So I think that really does set us apart. Our philosophy on industry sponsor research, we have just a few guiding principles we go on. The first one I didn't understand as deeply until I really had a lot of experience negotiating, and it's something I think both sides really need to take to heart. For our research relationship to be fruitful, the terms have to be consistent with the missions of both partners. So as long as both partners are not in a situation where they have to violate their core principles or their core missions, we're going to have a good relationship. We recognize that one size does not fit all. We make a lot of revisions to our research agreements depending on the unique concerns of our partners and depending on the different markets that our partners will work within. Obviously, a therapeutic company is going to have a much different approach to intellectual property than a computer software company, and we do acknowledge that in our negotiations. We strive to provide all of our sponsors with intellectual property access. If you do sponsor research, you have the first opportunity to license it and put the resulting intellectual property to use. And the most important thing, I think, for our partners to understand is dollar amounts don't necessarily drive our flexibility. Obviously, if you're going to put $100 million on the table, we're listening. But that $30,000 research agreement could very well be a seed project that is being used for the company and the faculty to get to know each other. And that seed project can turn into a much bigger relationship. So at TIA, we keep that in mind. And we really don't make our contract terms based on the dollar values at issue. And we really believe that if both the company and the university recognize each other's needs and, frankly, each other's limitations, we're going to have a strong, replicatable contract. And it really is our goal as a small office to work out a contract that both of us are comfortable with so that the next time that you want to sponsor a project at UCSB, we just grab the same terms, put a new scope of work on, and you're off. So we really try to be as efficient as possible in our work with you. Switching gears to intellectual property licensing. I like to put this philosophy up front because, again, thanks to the support of our senior administration, its principles can appear a little rogue to some of the other universities, but we find them pretty much truisms that we live with. The first is, if a technology is strong, the company is going to license it. If a technology is weak, the company won't. This is a really important recognition. I think sometimes universities are tempted to put a premium valuation on absolutely everything and get the maximum return possible. But my philosophy is, if you're not sure about whether a technology will fit your portfolio, and I charge you a high price for you to play with it to find out that question, and it turns out to be a little weak, you're going to resent it, and you're going to be less likely to license it. But if I give you that technology with reasonable terms that acknowledge you're not quite sure where it's going to fit, but you do want us to hold it off the market, so there's some consideration, if that's strong, you're going to absolutely come back to me. And if it's weak, you're going to feel like it's okay to come back and take another risk. So we do try to be very open to short-term evaluation kind of relationships so you can really tinker with it and make sure that it is a good fit for your company. We also recognize that our technologies are early stage, and we recognize that licensees bring a lot to the table when they're putting all the scalability and all the R&D and all the regulatory approvals and everything else you guys to deal with is not inconsequential. And it's hard to get a technology into commerce in a successful way. So we do approach our licenses with that knowledge. We also believe that license terms should support the development of products and services for the public benefit. And this is probably the one thing when you work with us or any other university, keep in mind. We've got a little bit more complicated mission with licensing than just getting a financial consideration for the commercial use of our technologies. I'm here because the university wants the work that Dr. Bowers and others does to be actually put into products that are going to help people's lives, not just published and thrown in the ivory tower. And the mechanism for doing that is license agreements. So there are occasionally some terms in our license agreements that might seem a little quirky for a B2B arrangement, but really come back to that fundamental, we're here to make sure our technology is being actually put to use, not necessarily shelved or used for purely offensive purposes. So again, our theme is we want a fair licensing terms that recognizes the university's contribution and encourages robust product development. Now, our patent portfolio is actually fairly unusual if you look across the country in that we have an absolutely top-ranked engineer program and we have no med school. So we are what I call an engineering-dominated portfolio. Biology represents about 6% of our disclosures, chemistry about 20%, and a lot of times they actually are linked to engineering. So what that means to companies that do work outside of the biotech therapeutics fields is we really do understand how to license engineering. We're not putting a therapeutic licensing model on that one odd engineering or clean energy technology that comes in. We understand a lot of technologies are going to be involved. So we've got one license that has 80 different patents together that create a position in an LED, in the LED space. So we're very used to the issues you face when you're in clean tech, when you're in engineering, when you're in physical sciences, and we're very comfortable dealing with them. Oh, I should also say we're very proud that 50% of our portfolio is actually under licensing agreements, which is well above the national standards. And 30% of companies that fund our research are also licensees. And that's a metric I'm most proud of because it's showing that you can engage in one business deal with us and feel comfortable going into the next one. Let's see here. So UCSB, we're very good at quietly doing great work with a relatively low profile. So I wanted to let you know these are all actual products that we have right now. We have everything from medical diagnostics, telecom amplifiers. We had a fundamental position in the atomic force microscope. Our researchers helped it become something ubiquitous in all the laboratories. Malware detection, energy efficiency, both with skyscrapers and new ways of solar energy, obviously LED lighting. And another one we're very proud of is there is a blood clotting powder that is in every single U.S. soldier survival pack, and it was improved by Galen Stuckey, of our professor of chemistry. So it doesn't have to be restricted to life or death uses, but can actually be used in the field to not just clot blood, any blood from any wound, but to also deliver antibiotics and reduce infections. So we're very proud of that particular one. So we have a wide variety of markets. We do have one therapeutic, and as I like to joke, we're very confused about it. We often call University of San Francisco, who's only a med school campus, to ask, what they would do at a particular situation. But the vast majority of ours are in all these wonderful markets, and they're a lot of fun because we get our products out before most UC campuses, so we get to personally experience the impact a lot quicker. Now, a final word, I just want to let you know about our startups. Again, we're very good at quietly doing high-quality work. We actually spin off about 4 to 6 companies a year from our campus, which is a pretty high percentage per capita. Obviously, MIT does more, but they're a lot bigger than us. And if you look at the statistics, we have a very high survivability rate. At any given time, we have about an 80 to 85% survival of all of our currently active companies. So if there is a startup that's working in your area and it's UCSB founded, it's a very good one to keep your eye on. And another thing that's not always known is the length of our entrepreneurship. So we were doing, our first startups were all the way back in 1989, Digital Instruments, which commercialized our AFM technologies. That is about the same time that UC Berkeley was coming online with startups. Granted, we didn't have as many of them, but we were doing them way back then. Computer motion, robotic surgery, it's still active, was from 1989, and then you'll see 1990. And what I love about this list is every single one of these companies, at least one of the early entrepreneurs and founders are still forming companies today, and some of them are on their 3rd and 4th. So we have a huge, deep bench, and the older generation, more seasoned generation of entrepreneurs are very open in sharing their experiences when the junior faculty come in and they want to do that. So that's a lot of fun for us to work with. Here are some of ours. I believe that some of you might have seen Next Energy here. They are definitely one of our startups, and we are very proud of them. And let's see, I know you have a lot of science to talk about, so I think I will leave it there and ask if any of you have any questions about working with UCSB. No? Well, thank you very much.